That the ship had already gone into hyperspace. The only thing we saw when we went out on deck was you could not see the horizon, you could not see adjacent land. All you could see was a gray fog, which was just a little bit beyond the railing of the ship. On the deck, you could see quite clearly, and the sailors milling about. And we decided, there's nothing we can do here. Let's get out of here. We don't know what's going on. We will jump overboard and swim ashore. We were both excellent swimmers, and we figured at that point it was about, at maximum, half an hour to shore. Half a mile to shore, and it was not a long swim for us. Let's jump overboard. So we both did. And that is the point where things got very strange. We did not hit the water. There was no water. We just started to fall. The feeling was like you were falling down an elevator shaft with no bottom. And we just kept falling and falling and falling and falling. And what is this?
What were you thinking at that time?
We weren't thinking, I can assure you. We were in a state of panic, virtually. Yeah. And
could you see him, though, as you were going down?
Yes.
Or did you feel alone?
No, I could see Duncan hazily. And see, then the whole sequence of what happened from that point on became very, very bizarre, because we came out of this sort of hazy area where we were falling through it, but I could barely see him, but he was there fairly close to me. We could see each other. Suddenly, we came out of this hazy area into a brightly lit area with what appeared to be fluffy clouds. And here we are going through, we don't know where, in what was open sky. Couldn't see ground, couldn't see anything else, open sky and a cloudy effect. And we're moving through this for a period of time. Then all of a sudden, we blank out. And then we we were in the hospital in 2137.
So was it like you were flying?
Some kind of Nikola Tesla experiment to make a ship disappear. And, they got it on the History Channel, too. We can look at the Philadelphia experiment. I didn't really look too much in it, but I says, let me look at some of what this guy said. I looked at it, what he said a couple of years ago, and I looked at it recently. I said, there's a couple of things that just don't jive with this dude. Well, first, he wakes up in a hospital in 2137. And, I got an open mind on this. Let me put it to you this way. I can entertain a thought without believing it and just go down the rabbit hole partly and not necessarily believe it or not believe it, just kind of like see does the pieces fit. That's kind of how I think. I'm not even leaning one way or the other. I got a completely open mind in this deal, Who the hell knows? Maybe time travel is possible, right? I'm not closed-minded to that.
And you couldn't see a thing beyond the railing of the ship. I have to make that very evident, because beyond the railing of the ship, you could see nothing. So we had the bright idea, we thought, let's jump overboard and swim ashore. Right. We were both good swimmers. Well, we jumped overboard, but we never hit the water. We started to fall and fall and fall. And we fell, and it was like going down an elevator shaft without ever hitting the bottom. Well, subjectively, maybe 2 minutes. We wound up standing on our feet at night inside of a military base where there's a chain link fence, obviously military design, to our back. And suddenly appears overhead a helicopter with a bright searchlight that picked us out. MPs come out of somewheres and grab us and take us to a building, and we go in the building and on an elevator and go down several levels, I don't know how many now.
So to that point, the movie seems to be fairly accurate. To that point,
the movie is quite accurate except for the date. They showed it October. The second test was August. The third test was in October.
I see.
And here, this elevator door opens. We look in, we see this room and a hallway with a lot of military personnel and one elderly civilian walking towards us. White hair with what was left of it. And he walks towards us and says, "Gentlemen, I've been expecting you. I'm Dr. John von Neumann."
So it happened that quickly? Or was there really a time dropout for you?
There was sort of a time dropout for us, but that's the way it felt at that time. And what we remembered at that point. It seemed very continuous and fluent, except we were very, very distraught, to put it mildly.
So going through that hyperspatial tunnel, do you have any recollection of what that felt like?
As I say, like falling down an elevator shaft without ever hitting bottom,
well,
and that feeling of terror.
Drop, right?
Oh, in a sense, it was a 40-year drop. we didn't age more than a minute or so. There was no apparent change in our appearance or our uniforms or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we argued with this man, and he insisted he was Dr. Van Neumann, the same one we had known. He says, "You're not in 1943 anymore. You're in 1983 at Montauk, Long Island, part of the Phoenix Project." We both got the bright idea at the same time, jump overboard and swim ashore. So we did jump overboard.
I can understand that.
But we never hit the water. We fell and fell and fell like we were falling through a tunnel for what subjectively seemed like about a minute. And then we found ourselves landing on dry ground at night in what was obviously a military base of some kind, because the chain link fence of a military design directly to our rear. Suddenly there was a bright light overhead, a searchlight beaming down, as we found out later from the helicopter. But in 43, who knew much about helicopters? They were experimental at that point. And suddenly out of nowhere comes a number of MPs. They grab us and they take us to a building on this base. We go inside, we go in an elevator, we go down several levels, and the door opens. And we see a lot of military personnel running around, and then an elderly civilian with white hair approaches us. "The gentleman, I've been waiting for you. I'm Dr. John Van Neumann."